very good morning to all you listeners and viewers on C24, the listeners on 89.7 Contact FM. This is the news review on CFM, and as usual, I am Laini Manzi, and I'm alongside my good friends here, Alberto Rudatsimburgo. How are you doing today?
Good morning.
Excellent, and of course, Archie Henry.
Hi, Light. I can't do as well as you do. This energy is missing. Unmatchable.
Do your thing, or is it because you have a small cup, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I guess that's where he beats me. And then these are the kind of guys that will pretend that size doesn't matter.
I know. You know? God damn it.
But if you got a big tray, we got a small X. Yeah.
So I take it your weekend went very well, Albert.
Like always, man.
Like always.
They should have called me Mutijima.
There you go. That's why you called your son that.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of the weekend, let's go into matters entertainment before we go to the less good stuff. The African Cup of Nations. You guys, I know you guys been following some football or soccer, like they say.
AFCON has officially started.
Finally, so no Ebola cases.
No,
first and foremost.
Not yet. In Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah.
This is where the cup started. It was supposed to take place in Morocco, of course.
Now, I hope Morocco is going to be banned for 10 years.
And so the big first surprise was Gabon, which is, a neighboring country of Equatorial Guinea.
Yes.
Alongside, they're in the same group as Congo, Brazzaville, Gabon, and Equatorial Guinea. So those three of the region are the same group. So there's a regional rivalry. And Gabon defeated Burkina Faso 2-0, which kind of surprised us. Burkina Faso used to be a very good team, made it to the semifinals last time.
It's a new season, and then they are also maybe it was Blaise Compaoré who used to pep them up, and that's why why they lost.
Yeah.
But the good surprise was also surprise. Cape Verde, Tunisia, because Cape Verde lost it to Tunisia. I mean, they had won Tunisia going for the World Cup, but then apparently they had a story that had one of the players who played was not supposed to play.
He had a red card.
A red card.
So they were eliminated.
And then Tunisia went, and now this time it's nil. I mean,
so 1-1. So in fact, all the matches yesterday ended up that way, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, 1-1, and then Zambia and Democratic Republic of Congo.
That was a tough one to see because at the same time you had Arsenal playing Manchester City.
Now speaking of that, a very good transition indeed. So apparently, Archie, you were telling us about some controversy, a fierce debate going on Twitter.
Yeah,
what's going on in the
Facebook
Twitter world
as well? Just generally social media. I saw it among Rwandans, among Ugandans, Kenyans, all saying, how could we as Africans prefer to watch Manchester City versus Arsenal and not, the African Cup of Nations game, Zambia, Congo? And this was a fierce debate because obviously the ones contradicting this argument were many as well. They were saying, it's just a question of habit. You're seeing the English games all year long and the question of showbiz and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the ones...
and they were tweeting while watching Manchester?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, why are you guys watching this? What's the score, guys? But does that have to do with anything? Because these past couple of days, we've had that debate about Charlie and about what we Africans, how we consider ourselves. But does that have to do with anything? Should you, by virtue of being African, watch everything African, even if it's not up to standard?
And that's exactly. That's exactly. I mean, but the whole point is why you always have to bring a race, a nationality, and when it's about
humans too.
No, but it's about what you like. Yeah. It's about what you like. I mean, if it thrills you, you go for it. That is a creative industry.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely Arsenal, Manchester City is a big game, especially when we know what Wenger has been through. I mean, if you like soccer, I mean, it's an interesting game. So, tough luck. It's at the same time that you have also the African Cup of Nations. But like you say, these things of nationalities and all that can bring us to the hard news that we wanted to talk about.
And just real quickly, there was some people on social media went as far as talking about mental slavery, by watching English football and not African football. So I think that's going a bit far. But it's still important to analyze that, to observe that many people were making these criticisms. So
that's geopolitics, according to people on Twitter.
Geopolitics.
According to many people on Twitter. Especially when we use those kind of adjectives, that is where.
Maybe it's not many. Maybe they're just making a lot of noise.
Exactly.
That's usually what happens. Now we're talking about the African Cup of Nations. We talk about the DRC. That was one of the teams to play during this weekend. At the very same time in DRC, apparently they called in a session of Parliament to push through a very controversial election law. So that did pass, but passed through controversial ways. Apparently, many people abstained. Some left the building after many hours of tractations. What's your take on that, Albert?
Well, I didn't really follow the last. I started to. I mean, I was on it when it was making noise. So I honestly, I don't know how it ended, but it's part of the stuff that people are saying that. Because there was also on Voice of America, I read it, that the spokesperson of the government, Mr. Lambert Mende, also said that there could be a delay in the presidential elections.
Yes.
Of a whole year.
Yeah, that appears to be one of the consequences of these changes.
Yeah. So and behind the curtain, that's where people have been saying that in fact Kabila is negotiating a third term.
Yes.
And FDLR is also part of the negotiation. So we don't know what is coming out of that. But anyway, it is obvious that Congo is going through trouble.
And it's also,
more trouble than there used to be.
The elections also upcoming is not just presidential. There's local and municipal elections. But usually for the ruling, for the ruling party, usually. There's this also will to delay those elections as well, to consolidate your power,
That is at least the accusation leveled at the government by the opposition. Apparently, many of them had left by the time they voted. 24 abstained, 8 were against it. The women were apparently especially upset because unanimously they rejected an amendment that was asking for equality of men and women in Parliament. So very controversial indeed. Yes. Yeah. So we many things to talk about in the news. We were talking about Boko Haram strikes again in Cameroon. Attacks 2 villages, apparently pushed back by the Cameroonian army. Then attacks, pillages, and burns down 2 villages
and kidnaps
80 people. Apparently 60, 80. So different. 80 people. Then 24 apparently were. Were rescued.
So complex and unpredictable with Boko Haram is that they just have like a whole arsenal of ways to terrorize people. It's like destruction, terror, burning, but also kidnapping. And so when they do that, they kidnap civilians, they kidnap people from the army, and so that's something that's just like completely confusing the armies there. The Cameroon and Nigerian army are just like taken by surprise every time there's an attack. So we always criticize, Nigerian army for being weak, for not doing enough. But I think also Boko Haram is a really strong group, and it gets a lot of financing. That's another question we were talking about. Where does it get the financing? But they have these like unpredictable military strategies that even like there's been.
I think it's too much of trying to analyze the situation where we just Boko Haram is just growing and it's just and those armies had never to deal with anything like that before, and we've seen in Nigeria that there doesn't seem to be a political will to take on the Boko Haram, which is different in Cameroon, because Biya is not going through any elections that he has to face the North, the Muslim, and all. So I think here we have another ball game, and of lately Cameroon has been calling for taking it up seriously.
And we have to point out that the army of Chad has arrived on Saturday, I believe, to help retake one of these cities, the city of Baga, I believe.
Yeah, in Nigeria.
Yes.
At the lake, at Chad.
Lake Chad.
Yeah. So there is a certain momentum, at least in the part of Cameroon, in fighting Boko Haram.
Absolutely.
At least there's the will, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see now what is the next chapter, but things might be changing with Cameroon, maybe.
Sure. But I think when we talk about Boko Haram, their real base is really northern Nigeria. That's where they have the most territory, and even if Cameroon and Chad do put in a lot of effort to dismantle Boko Haram there, if there's no political will in Nigeria to dismantle them in the north of Nigeria, then we're not going to see any end of Boko Haram anytime soon. So I think it's important to remember that there's also a huge problem in Nigeria, cancer actually in the north. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, terrorism seems to be on everybody's mind. That we're still following that momentum. Maybe real quick, the European Union foreign ministers are meeting to talk about the threat of terrorism and how to have a joint response.
But I mean, on the same line, we can choose either. But because Niger is not too far from there, and it went cuckoo ever since our last show that we had on Friday. I mean, things went really bad in West Africa, and not just West Africa. We're coming back on because we can go to terrorism, but I mean, who is fueling also terrorism? By this positioning of, I mean, François Hollande today is very happy. He's bouncing back in the polls. That he's making better marks than he used to all of this time.
Bad,
yes,
thanks to Charlie Hebdo, and at the same time, he was like calling that people should be people who have been burning the French flag should be arrested or whatever. I can't remember the terms he was using.
Punished.
I mean, punished. Yeah. Sorry. So and. Guys call for burning the French flag when 23% of the whole planet, which are the Muslims, almost 2 billion people, are upset by a thing, and he doesn't see that. He doesn't even acknowledge the fact that it could have been hurting these people, and it's all about freedom of speech.
Especially considering that many of these very same people came in solidarity when again speaking out against terrorism and against the Charlie Hebdo attack. So when you listen to the debates on that, it happened in France, different media outlets. It seems like not only François Hollande but the French in a general sense that didn't seem to get the point.
Yeah, there was actually a poll which said that 45% of a French poll, 45% of French disapproved completely of putting Mohammed on the cover of Charlie Hebdo, which is still like less than, it's not the majority, but still huge considering what the French state and French different actors in France have been telling us. As in, it's fine, the French love Charlie Hebdo, the French people love this magazine, and it's no problem. And even the French are now in a huge huge portion opposed to.
Well, to me, it shows that, in fact, France is really leaning on the right,
that it's not more than 45.
Well, it's not just that. It's just that nobody picks up in the whole debate. I've been a bit watching the French TVs and French media in this weekend. Nobody picks it up. Nobody's telling people, but guys, we are just making trouble here. We are looking for trouble. We're just hurting people. Nobody picks it up. Everybody's cocorico.
And some people do, and some people do bring it up slightly and say, yes, I never personally liked what Charlie Hebdo was doing. So speak out and say it's what it means, because it's not even about Charlie Hebdo, but it's a bigger conversation about how far should we take things in terms of freedom of speech, of liberty of the press,
freedom of offending,
and what it is, and that is where we can. I was going to Europe then.
Yes.
What it is also, France is creating a situation that there is the white, the West, and them. That is what they are creating. And because that is the feeling that these guys joining radical jihad, that is what they have in mind. That this is our way to revenge, to spit back. That is what it is. So now you're gonna meet, and you're gonna meet just on structural things, but there is something under there that is driving these people. And if you don't factor that in, what are you going to fight?
Yeah.
They always find a new way to come out.
Absolutely. Now, real quick, because we just have a few minutes left, Israeli strikes once again in the Golan Heights.
Yeah.
Can you run us through that, Archie?
Yeah. So the Golan Heights, just as a reminder, are this portion of southern Syrian territory, actually near the border, southwestern. So between Syria and between Syria and Israel, there's this little territory that officially belongs to Syria, but Israel have often had troops there, and that's where Hezbollah usually operates to launch attacks on Israel or to use Lebanon as a base, to then. And Israel just made some huge airstrikes there yesterday using some helicopters, and apparently killed 2 top Hezbollah commanders. When you say top, it's like the chief, the number 1 actually was killed.
Yes.
And Hezbollah actually confirmed this. So usually it's rare to see a group admit a defeat, and Hezbollah admitted it. So this is a big turning point. But again, this is fueling tensions between Syria and Israel, because
that was going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Does that in the fight against so-called terrorism, does that really help? Does it help does it play in the hands of those recruiting? Does it work in radicalizing the youth?
Well, especially that Hezbollah hasn't been sidelining with the radical Islam.
In fact, it's fighting radicals.
Exactly. So there you are even fighting a potential ally that can help you with at least fighting the radicals.
Just as a reminder, Hezbollah is a Shiite group, a political group, and which is usually in big conflict with the extreme Sunni groups, which are usually the Al Qaeda, the Al Nusra, the ISIS. Those are usually the Sunni groups. So
all of that is not that usually. It came up with the time. There was a time the Shiite were the extreme, and then Sunni the cooler guys, and then things are changing.
So they're taking turns.
But I like to just they're taking turns. Just a small anecdote before you kick us out of the show.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, a friend. Actually, you remember our friend, our colleague who came here from Switzerland, the Swiss journalist who was here. He was also with a Dutch journalist. Actually, the guy who was taking the photos.
Yes.
That guy lives in Nairobi, and so we were moving around in Kigali and we were like around the Gulf or Nyarutarama and all that, and he saw such a patrol, and he was just in fact admiring the whole situation, the Kachuri, the estates. Wow, the quality of life is incredible here, and then he saw an army patrol in the hood, very quiet and all that. And he says, Albert, but what is this? I said, what is that? But it doesn't feel right. Oh yeah. And then I told him, you live in Nairobi? Yeah. You know what? Here, a blonde can walk with the laptop on her back in the middle of the night.
Or in her hands, actually.
Wherever. And we won't have a Westgate situation here. And then are sending out pictures from Amsterdam, from Antwerp, from Paris, from Germany, because now they have those commando trucks, and I mean it's much more invasive and intruding than what you see here, the RDF with urban warfare. You see what the situation, they're under siege now.
They have mentioned it, that since actually in France, since the Charlie Hebdo attack, more troops are deployed now on the territory of France than they have in different missions all over the world.
Exactly.
Over 10,000.
Exactly. So the guy responded like point taken, you know.
Exactly. Now, before we get out of here, let me give you just a few seconds to. You were mentioning something about Jakarta and people executed.
It's true. So in Indonesia, I mean, to see in 2015 that people have been executed by the Indonesian state for drug trafficking. 5 foreigners and 1 Indonesian, and Holland and Brazil have recalled their ambassadors. You know, I think it's such a Jurassic way of thinking when it comes to that. You know,
and you have Saudi Arabia as well, which is a country that does a lot of executions, even for more minor offenses than drug trafficking. And then this is another debate, but you know, the U.S. talking about the problems with human rights in the Middle East should start by having a discussion with its biggest ally, Saudi Arabia, and actually Indonesia is also
part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
But it goes to show the failure of what has been termed wrongly, according to some people, as the war on drugs, and the same kind of.
And on the same level, the world has been changing. But the thing is, you know, it has come from the first world, from the Western world, to impose on on the whole world, this war on drugs that they have lost, and they are moving out. But the rest of the world is still in there. And most of the time, you see these kind of situations in third world countries. Well, Indonesia is not that third world anymore. But it's so stupid to think that you can win a war against drugs by fighting it that way.
I think it's even worse in Malaysia. I have a friend who's Malaysian, and she told me that you can get executed for just consuming, not trafficking. Can you imagine? So it gets very intense there.
Right. Oh well, you've heard it here, kids. Don't do drugs, you might get executed. On that note, we will have to bow out and say goodbye. But that's bye for now, because of course we'll be together again tomorrow for the news review in English. Right about now, in just a few minutes, we'll have the news review in Kinyarwanda and in French. Thank you guys. Thank you, Archie. Thank you, Albert, for keeping me company. As usual, I'm Lionel Manzi, and do whatever the hell you want to do with your life.